The first one of them, historically the first one, and the revolutionary concept of psychoanalysis, is the idea that mental disorders have meaning. So this is from Foucault, from The History of Madness, that for thousands of years psychiatry was a monologue of reason about madness. If you look at literature, if you look at testimonies, books, whatever, until the second half of the 19th century, you will never find, except for a very, very few, single-digit number exceptions of people we would call psychiatric patients today, who are writing their memoir, their experiences, their testimonies of what it looks like. I will try briefly to show you what the world looked like before psychoanalysis. Hopefully you will appreciate living in this age and having psychoanalysis at your disposal more. This is a drawing, a sketch by Hieronymus Bosch for the Ship of Fools, a rather famous oil painting. The Ship of Fools is a very important motif in the Central Europe and in England until probably the 15th century. Whoever you have in your town that you don't want, people we would call psychotic today, beggars, homeless, prostitutes, infected with this or that disease, tuberculosis, especially plague at certain moments, you put them on a ship, you set the ship on sail downstream from your town or to the sea or the ocean, and then you can forget about them. That is the attitude we have toward these people until probably 1450 or something. Just get rid of them, send them out of your community. I hope you can read this. The reason for me to offer you this quotation is twofold. This is from Thomas More, the author of Utopia. The year is 1533, so the mid-16th century. It says literally that a certain psychotic person had therefore been put up in Bedlam, that's the first psychiatric hospital that was founded in London, and afterward by beating and correction gathered his remembrance. So that is the basic form of treatment we have for psychotic persons in the mid-16th century, beating and correction. As soon as he was set free and could walk around, More says his old fancies began to fall again in his head. So the conclusion I believe you should make is, unless you beat him and you put him in a sort of a prison hospital, you can only expect trouble very soon. The English publication of this book is translation from Latin. The guy is English. Bartholomew Anglicus tells you that he is from England. The book is published in Paris in 1595 in Latin and then translated into English. So deep in the 16th century, there is a belief that there are four basic humors running through your body, and which one is prevalent decides on how you're going to feel, and if any of them is, so to say, too prevalent, then you will suffer from that mental disorder. So in this case, Bartholomew discusses melancholy and says if you have most of this humor in your body, then this will be the signs of the symptoms of the disorder. First, the color of your skin will change into black and blue. Then what you will feel in your mouth will change into sharp, earthy feeling. And then you will be faint, fearful in your heart without reason, and very often sad. Some people suffering from that dread that other people will be their enemies, and some love and desire death. So that's a description with which we come to the age of Shakespeare, the early modern period. And if you can read this, I hope you can see what the English language looked like at that time. It, to me, is hilarious. This is a book from 1586 by a person called Timothy Bright, who wrote the first book claiming that depression, melancholy, is a disease like other diseases, that it doesn't have anything to do with demons, witches, that it is not the thing for priests and exorcists, but for the world of medicine. This is 1730s, Hogarth's famous Rake's Progress, a visit to Bedlam, to the London-based hospital, and there you can see people in chains. Here is one who is delusional and believes to be a pope. Here is one who is delusional and believes to be an artist. And here is the upper class London citizens who come there to visit. On Sundays they pay entrance to get a ticket, we would say today, in order to be able to enter and then see people here chained in prison-like circumstances. This is, believe it or not, 1860, so Freud is already born. Psychoanalysis is not that far away. In a psychiatric hospital in the United States, they've made a list of causes for mental diseases. Of 193, they very honestly say for 56 they have no idea where the disease came from. But there are wonderful reasons. Again, I hope you can read them. My favorite one is intense study, but there's also 3 times loss of children, 2 times loss of wife, and 1 time loss of a husband. So make your conclusions, if you will. There is, for instance, in one case, sudden cessation of bleeding from the nose. How that causes insanity, I have no idea. This is the second half, the beginning of the second half of the 20th century. This procedure was called lobotomy. This is the person who came up with this wonderful idea to take a needle or a nail or a spike, put it under the eyelid, then use this hammer that doctors use to test your reflexes, and then knock the needle or whatever he has here in his hand under your bone, and then to do several times left to right so that he can cut between the frontal and prefrontal parts of your cortex, with all consequences for the other parts of the brain, bleeding and so on and so on. Thousands of people were in this situation. Several persons holding your hand, holding your body, even more persons watching what is going on, what is happening to you, yet no one asks you how you feel, what you want, or anything else. Deep into the 20th century, I would dare say, even nowadays, in many situations, no one asks patients what they would like to say.